Today we are going to go over the theme options. The theme options panel is where many of the parameters, particularly the homepage parameters, are chosen. But I want to make one thing very clear. This is the theme panel for this particular template, the one we use at eCommerce Maestro. Other options panels may be very different. This one is more feature-rich than many. It has a few quirks, which I'll point out to you. I want you to think of the theme options panel. Think of it as you might a car dashboard. WordPress is the engine, the basic framework. And the dashboard, like in a car, they tend to be similar. There's a steering wheel, there's a speedometer, but the dash may be very different depending upon what car you are in. It may have rear cameras, interactive panels, controls on your steering wheel. Now we all know how to drive a car, and that's what we're using for WordPress. It's the basic framework, but when you want to turn on the rear wiper or access the GPS, you may have to take out the manual because it may be different depending upon each car. If you ever decide to do another WordPress theme and it looks different, then you'll understand why. And this is also one of the reasons why we tend to use the same theme for all of our clients, because in order to train you, we want everybody on the same page. It'll make it easier for you to understand. It'll make it easier for us to do the videos. So with that in mind, let's go to the options and take a look. First thing we see, there are actually two options menus. You access them down here where it says division, because that is the name of the theme. And you see there's a theme option and there's a slider option. And let's look at the slider option first. This area here is the slider. It has a welcome message, or only the best in this case, and it has an image. And the image flashes on and off almost like a fading slideshow. So when you come here, there's a bunch of different options. There's a slider type. In this case, we're just using the full slider. And where you want your image to go, we have it on the left, and the transition effect is the fade. If you click on any of these, you'll see there's a whole bunch of others you can choose. You'll have to try them. The timeout is in milliseconds. That's just the time that it takes for the next slide to make a transition. Let's take a look down here. These are actually the slides. You can have more than these three. You can have 5 or 10, whatever you want. All you have to do is click add a new slide. But for our case, we're going to just use 3. I think that's more than enough. Now on the left side, you see the title. You see the image. This is your description, what goes on the right side of the slide. Now, the image URL is the location of the actual image. And the way to find this is go over to Media, pick an image that you want. If you don't have your images uploaded yet, you need to add new so that you can upload your image. And then once the image is uploaded, you choose the image, and then you'll see over here where it says File URL. This is the address of where that picture resides in the site. So what you would do is go back, put that image into the file URL in the slider options, and then that picture would show up. So let's go back to the slider options. And again, you see, so if you want to change your text, change it here. If you want to change your images, you'll change them here. You can change your titles, and then just save the changes, and that'll take care of the slider. Okay, now let's go to the theme options. And here you see a whole lot more options. This is, as I said, very feature rich. Let's look at the general settings first. And all this is the logo. Upload your logo to the media library, find the URL, and put it in this area. Your blog settings, when you have a blog page, you don't really have to touch this, but just so you know, this area just sets the excerpt length. So when you go to a blog page, This area here, that's the excerpt, and that is set here as to how many characters, so 300 characters. And this is a pixel height. We just leave it at the standard 580 and the image height at 160, which is recommended. The important section for our clients is in here. We've set up the portfolio page. The portfolio page is actually the product page. The page we call our store, and we put all of our products in as categories. If you want to add a new category so that you have a new category in your menu, you can do that by going into Posts, Categories, and then you would add a new category. You would tell it that the parent is the store. That alone won't put your product into the store. What you need to do is go back to the division theme options, go into the portfolio settings, and make sure that that category is part of the store. You don't need to click Our Store, just the categories you want as part of the store. The rest of this area I'm not going to discuss. You really don't need to change anything there. We'll just leave it at its defaults. The next section is the contact page. If you go to the About Us page or other areas within the site, the information about who you are and your address all comes from this section, so make sure that you put in your name and company info. If you have social media, like you have a Facebook page and you have a Twitter page, LinkedIn, this is where it would go. And there'll be social media icons at various places within the site. And if you were to click on the Facebook icon, it would go to your Facebook page because this is where you put in the address of the Facebook page. Code integration we're not going to discuss. The featured service is very important. Featured services are this area here. What I've put in here is a little blurb about us, about our products, about our blog, and a contact us page. So if you want that area enabled, you hit enabled equals yes. So featured service 1 has this little icon, this little house. That house is out on the web at this location. If for some reason that location changes and you need to replace it, you can find icons all over the web, find another home icon, and just make sure that its pixels are 48 by 48. And if you go to any site, just Google icons, and there's many sites that have icons, and all you have to do is look at the address of that and put it in here. Here's your title, here's your short message, and then if you notice, it says read more. When you click read more, it goes to whatever link you put over here. And in this case, I put an About Us page. So that links to the About Us page. The link down here is a link to the store, and you can write a little bit of information and so on. So if you want to change that area, go ahead, make any changes you want. Just try not to make the descriptions too long, because then it will push the descriptions here down below the gray line. It'll actually start to get too tall. So keep your descriptions pretty much with the amount of characters that we have in there now. Okay, then there is the blog news. What that is this section here. So it's really your last 2 blog posts in this case, because I put in number of blog posts 2. You could put in more, but again, it'll force sections down too far. I suggest you don't do more than 2. The homepage quote, I'm using it as testimonials. It could be anything you want. It could also rotate, so you can have one testimonial, then the next one, then the next one, and this is where you would do that. This area where we have home clients, most of the e-commerce people don't have clients in that sense. So for many of our clients, because we're using an Amazon store, I just use this as we use Amazon. Again, it's a place where you can put any kind of text that you want. So you can change that if you so desire. And then the last one is the portfolio carousel. That is this area at the bottom that shows the latest products. It actually keeps going as a carousel, like a horse carousel. It just goes around and around. And the number of products is chosen here. You can make a title. I use latest products. You can use whatever you want. Leave this lightbox window, and the timeout is just how many seconds or milliseconds it takes for it to switch over to the next four. So you can have as many as you want, but I think that just getting an idea of the products that you have, the number that works for me is 12 because it's 3 sets of 4. You could use 8 or 12 or 16, but I wouldn't use any number in between because you'll end up with blank spaces. So you just make any changes you want, hit save changes, and that's all you need to do.